So I'd like to continue our conversation about an area that we haven't really touched on too much, although I made a few comments about it as we've gone through this journey. It's about how do I go through this with my children? Right? Always a difficult part of this whole divorce. Children are part of that relationship, and how that gets managed, there's a lot of ways to make this as best you can, but just recognizing, number one, you're not going to get it perfect, and that's okay. Everything we've talked about, how you're going through this, they're going to see too. That's all right. It's okay. Their children are resilient. They will bounce back. They will do as well as you are. But that doesn't mean you always have to do well. Sometimes we say that and people think, I always have to keep it together. That's not what that means. It means it's okay to let them see you cry. It's okay to let them see you get angry. It's okay to let them see you feel, well, that's the second quart of ice cream you've had tonight. It's all right. The part that we forget is we need to let them know that I am crying because this hurts. And yes, I'm eating 2 quarts of ice cream tonight while I'm binge watching these shows because I just don't feel in a good place. And that's all. Reassuring children is part of this whole journey. They haven't done anything wrong, and it's not their fault. And if that narrative can be part of the dialogue you have with them throughout this whole process, that'll go a long way in making sure they're in a good place. And they will be in a good place. They're not going to be permanently damaged. They're going to carry this with them. But don't take that on as another blame or shame or guilt, because that's powerful. That is powerful, seeing your children go through this. There's no question about that. And there's no cliche or pat phrase that I can tell you that's going to make it any easier. So let's start at the beginning. How do we have that conversation? Most painful thing you might have to go through if you have children is having that conversation and saying, this family that we've created is going to be broken apart. That hurts. It hurts you. It hurts them. And there's no other way around it. Children need to hear the truth to a point. They need to hear honesty to a point, and they need to hear it from you, not from friends. They don't need to hear it from somebody older. In the ideal situation, you and your partner should have that conversation with them together. Now, I understand that doesn't always happen, but the best thing to do is start off with you and your partner first and saying, can we at least agree to discuss this with the children without blaming each other, without looking at each other and saying, well, it's your fault, or you did this, or she did this, or he did this. They don't need to hear that. That's not going to help them. And sometimes we get caught in that trap. Well, if I say that about my partner, then the kids are going to be looking at me now and think, wow, it's the other person's fault because that's why we're doing it. The exact opposite happens. If you keep bashing the other person, eventually they're going to start turning you and saying, man, that's just a bitter thing you're doing. They don't need to know that. They don't need to know that, right? The honest truth is always painful. And sharing it, if you can, with your partner, with them, is the best thing to do. That's the ideal. And in a way that they understand it. Children are all different. And if you have multiple children, you're going to know they're going to process this differently, right? If we go to our blocks a little bit, you might have a teenager, someone who's a little bit older, has got a little bit more going for them. We might have one of the younger kids that is shaped more like a square. They're just more rigid that way, right? It happens. Kids do those things. You might have one that's a little bit more round and kind of processes things this way. Recognize it. It's okay. They don't have to have a way to navigate through this either, because this is a shock to their system too. So if you can share this together, that'll be wonderful in a way that doesn't damage more of what you two are going through. Just be honest. It's not working. We don't know how this is going to work yet, but we want to assure you it's nothing you've done and it's not your fault. And we're going to try to make this work as best we can. And if that narrative can be a part of that whole process, you'll have done a great service for them and they'll be able to move forward. So now let's say you've gotten to that point, or maybe it's only you who has to say it. That could be tough too, but somebody has to say it in a way that makes it work for them. So let's say you get through that now, and now maybe there's a joint custody going on, and they're with you half the time and you're with your partner half the time, or it's a 60-40 split, or maybe you have primary custody, but you still have to let your partner be involved. All those issues that are difficult to manage, if you have to go back to court to get hold up to the agreement, that's between you and your partner. That's not between you and the children. Kids they don't have any, that's not their issue. That has to be worked out between the two of you. So keep it there. Don't bring that into the narrative. If they have questions about it, sure, answer them. Well, this is the way the agreement, we're trying to make this work. And right now, this is the way it is, but we're going to see if we can make this work better. I understand that. How do you manage children to begin with? It's not easy when you have two people, let alone now just one, because children are just a delight. But you always have to make sure that you're being open and honest with them. That, yeah, you know what? I know we used to do this, but we can't right now. I know we always used to go vacation together, but this year it's just going to be us. Or maybe this year we can't go on a vacation because finances are pretty tight. It's all right. I understand. That's painful to tell them, and they're going to be okay. But maybe since we can't go on vacation, we're going to do a couple other things. That's hard. You don't want to make that harder on them. It's not their fault. But you have to keep breathing yourself to make sure the message you're giving them is recognizing what they're experiencing. And it's okay to tell them, I know this hurts. I know you're sad. I'm sad too. But together we can work together on this. Children have a unique way of bringing out their emotions. They're not necessarily going to tell you, I'm angry, I'm hurt, I'm mad, I'm sad. They might show it in different ways. And you know your children better than anybody else. You're the expert on who they are. You can tell other people how you know they're going to react. It's okay. Use that. Use that to help them work through this while you work through it. So if you have one child who you know kind of keeps things in, might need you to check in on them a little bit more, right? And they might only give you a little bit. Might only give you just a little, how you doing? Fine. Anything we want to talk about? No, I'm good. Okay. Just want to make sure you know that I know this is hard and I'm struggling with this too. And if you ever need to talk, I'll listen without getting upset. Fine, I'm fine. But this really gets me mad. Oh, okay. Right? We don't have to give them the answer. We can acknowledge whatever emotion they're going through. Yeah, kiddo, this is hard. And yeah, getting angry is okay, right? But I just want you to know we're going to make it through. We're all going to do okay with this. And I want you to keep doing the things that are going to help you through. You might have a child who expresses it in different ways. They might be more angry. They might be a little bit more resistant to some of the things you're asking them to do. I need you to pick up your stuff. I'm not going to do it. And they have to work through this themselves too. But you also don't want to let them just have carte blanche either, because that's not healthy. Children, even teenagers, as much as they might not think they do, they need to have some boundaries. They need to have some healthy boundaries on both ends here so they don't bounce back and forth uncontrollably. And that's what's scary for children. Imagine having no restrictions. And sometimes we overcompensate. Well, I know the kids are having a tough time for divorce, so yeah, I'm not really pushing them to get their rooms clean. I'm not really letting them stay to the bedtimes. I know they've missed school a couple of days, so it's okay. I'm going to let them go. Probably not a good idea. They need to have some firm consistency that, yeah, it's important that we go to school. Yeah, I need to get my homework done. Yes, I need to clean up my room. Whatever you were doing before needs to still be there. Giving them that framework that they know they can experience these motions, but no, I've got a place over here that I can't go too far with. And it's tough. It's hard. They're going to work through this together with you. Don't exclude them, but allow them to be part of that process. There's no easy way. Consistent, honest as you can, and try not to get caught up into maybe being a little bit more bitter and angry towards your partner who maybe might have been some of the cause of this. Try not to get caught up in that narrative because that puts them in a really tough spot. So let's talk too now about what happens if your children now have to go to their partners. And maybe the situation over there isn't as structured as it is when it's with you. That's a tough one. right? I know they're going over there. I know nobody's going to really check and see if they did their homework. And I know that they're probably going to stay up a lot later than they usually do. And there's probably more video game playing than I allow. Can you control that? No. Can you let yourself get so upset that it takes away from you interacting with your children in a better way? No. You can have the conversation. You can share with your partner that, you know what, it would really be good if you make sure they get their homework done or get to school on time. And if they do, great. But if they don't, okay. Remember, we talked about frustrations and expectations before, right? If I keep my expectations a little bit lower, then I know this probably won't happen. I know, but they need to get to school, and I can't believe they don't do that, and I just don't. Yeah, but look at how much time you're spending going over something you can't control. And now you're even more angrier. And now when your children do come back to you, you're going to be in a place that's going to make them feel even harder because it's tough when you're still so angry and they come back. So how do you balance that out? And I know you'll hear many times, well, when we go over so-and-so's, we don't have to worry about getting our homework done, or we don't have a bedtime, or I get to stay up late. Yeah, I understand that. I understand. That's the way they do it here. But here, this is the way we do it. And that's the way we're going to keep doing it. Don't sacrifice what you know is right to try to get better and get in their good graces or try to match what the other person's doing. It never works. And then you're going to have a bigger time later down the road. So as I share with parents and talks that I've given about how do we navigate through children, I usually have a set of car keys with me, and I tell them, if you can get things under control in a better framework when they're 6 and 7 and 8, I hold up the car keys and say, it's going to be a lot easier when they're 16 and 17 and they ask for the keys and they want to stay out till 2 or 3 in the morning. You don't do it then. You have to start it here. So if you can hold on to that, keep those boundaries going, that'll be good for them moving forward. That's the best you can do. That's the best you can do. As consistent and as honest as you can be with them. It's hard. It takes time. And you're going to get the blowbacks. More often than not, you're probably going to get more of that angst than maybe your partner is because you are holding firm. Okay, I can handle you getting mad at me tonight, but you know what? You still have to be in bed by 9 o'clock. And you can yell and scream at me all you want. One of the healthiest things you can ever have when you're raising children, and I know this is going to sound strange, is that they look at you and say, I hate you. You're the worst parent ever. Thanks. I take that as a compliment. Because usually what that means is you're keeping those boundaries for them in a good place. And they know, as much as they don't want to admit it, inside somewhere, they're saying, yeah, thanks, because I can't control myself, because I'm 10, I'm 12, I'm 17, I'm 16. I need somebody. I need an adult to give me some boundaries. Just a brief analogy, if you will, right? We all know about free-range chickens. They get to go all over the place and they eat and they're so much healthier. I really have a problem with free-range children. I don't think they should be just roaming all over and doing whatever they want and going wherever they do. They need to be a little bit more in a fenced-in area. They need to have those boundaries set because that's going to help them become better adults too. Free-range chickens, good. Free-range children, not good. So they can express themselves in other ways as long as we keep that boundary and allow them to express themselves in the defined manner that we know is appropriate for them. Children getting caught up in divorce is hard. And I know you're going to hear people tell you, oh, the poor kids, how are they doing? Yeah, we're doing the best we can. They're part of this too. They're in this mix, right? Oh, it's got to be so tough on the kids. Yeah, it is. Thanks for reminding me because I don't wake up with that every day, wondering how much hurt they're going through. But just like you, they're going to start breathing too. And they're going to get to a place where they're going to be okay with this. Doesn't mean that they're never going to remember it. Doesn't mean they're not going to have times when they think back. And I remember when we were all together. I remember when we went on different vacations together. That's all right. You can share in that memory too. One of the questions that comes up is, should I bring someone else new into the relationship? That's a tough one. You can, but just remember, you're not just bringing him into a relationship with you. You're bringing him into a relationship with your children. And that's a whole different balance on how you navigate through that. So if you can keep yourself in a good place with your kids, making sure you're staying honest and within the framework of what you think is important for them, not get caught up in the bitterness that happens between you and your partner, being open, recognizing they're going to go through those emotional trials and you can be there with them And yeah, you know what? You might miss some of their events. That hurts. But doesn't mean you've left them. Doesn't mean you're missing who they are as people. You might miss a recital. You might miss a sporting event. It's okay. It's all right. You make as much as you can. You do as much as you can. And you celebrate, enjoy, and cry with them as much as you can. Let them have some of that ice cream with you. But just remember, you're doing okay, and they're doing okay with you.